It's kind of a weird word, but glue is sticky. And a lot of what I do in my job is pulling people together. I always have my smartwatch with me to remind you to have a workout to get you up and moving, to make sure that you're burning the calories that you've got. Again, it gets back to a diverse day. Hello, my name is Eric John, and I'm the president of Boeing Korea. Thank you very much for joining, as today I would like to share some thoughts on one of Boeing's most enduring global values, diversity and inclusion. I was interviewed after a long career. I had 32 years at the State Department as a diplomat. And I'd had, a lot of different options, but the opportunity to come to Boeing and to work in aerospace was just too exciting to pass up. And it goes back to, I think, when back to when I was little. My dad was a pilot. He was a pilot in the Navy in World War II. And so growing up with that, I used to go to Dayton, Ohio, to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Museum and look at the airplanes and the history of military aerospace. And just aerospace has, not even knowing it, it's just always been in my DNA since I was a kid. And I think leaving the State Department to go to Boeing just seemed sort of a natural return to maybe what I was supposed to do. At Boeing, we strive every day to be the best, most equitable, diverse, and inclusive company. And we teach and encourage our leaders to embrace these values. So why is it so important to us? It's because we know that diversity and inclusion makes teams more adaptable. Diversity and inclusion makes teams more profitable. It makes teams more innovative and productive. So let me walk you through how. First off, simple math tells us if we're only tapping into 20% of the population, we're missing out on the skills, capabilities, and talents of the other 80%. If we only hired triangles, we'd be missing out, for example, on circles and squares and rectangles and even diamonds. But there's more to it than that. To answer this question, I turned first to the lessons that Mother Nature teaches us, and that is, diversity is necessary for survival. This is a potato field in Ireland. It looks healthy, but potato fields in Ireland at one time were not so beautiful. Farmers discovered that a species of potato grew exceptionally well in Irish soil, so they planted it and planted it. The plant clones itself, so it kept self-replicating. The species of potato covered Irish farmlands. It was a monoculture. Very homogeneous. Then the blight entered, a fungus that was so effective at destroying that particular potato that it wiped out half the country's food supply in the first year. This was completely unexpected. There was no crop diversity, no other species to stop the fungus. This happened in the mid-1940s, and 1 million people died, and 1.5 million more left the country. This devastation could have been avoided through crop diversity. Unfortunately, it's a hard lesson to learn. History repeats itself because monocultures are easy to build and more convenient in the short run. But every time humans create monocultures, eventually the monoculture collapses. It happened in Central America, when the most popular breed of banana was nearly wiped out. No crop diversity led to great devastation. The same thing happened with rice in Southeast Asia. And in North America with the American elm tree. 77 million elm trees were planted in North America, and this led to a monoculture in urban forests. The lack of biodiversity made the trees defenseless against Dutch elm disease in the late 1980s. and more than 75% of those 77 million trees planted were lost. There are now tree diversity targets in the U.S. to ensure that we no longer build monocultures that are susceptible to collapse. So the lesson that we learn from nature is that diversity is absolutely necessary for survival. Without it, we cannot build cultures that are resilient, robust, and able to withstand whatever the future holds. We can see the same phenomenon of monocultures playing out in human context, as we oftentimes create homogeneous groups. These groups initially seem efficient because they have much in common, and in many cases reach consensus easily. They typically share homogeneous social backgrounds and moral beliefs. But eventually, they fall prey to the blight of groupthink. They begin to make decisions without critical evaluation of alternative perspectives. They isolate themselves from diverse viewpoints. The financial crisis of 2008 is also considered another result of groupthink, where a very homogeneous group of leaders eventually ran Lehman Brothers to collapse, and a global financial crisis ensued. The IMF tagged the fall of Lehman Brothers a sobering lesson in groupthink, and many world leaders acknowledge that had there been more women working in senior Wall Street positions, the global financial crisis probably would not have happened. Studies show that diverse and inclusive teams make better decisions 87% of the time. Diverse teams with different perspectives and different backgrounds that make and execute decisions have 60% better results than non-diverse teams. So we've covered that diversity is necessary to help us avoid disaster. Now let's talk about how, when you include diversity and inclusion in your decision-making process, great things start to happen. Teams start to thrive, and diversity helps us become better versions of ourselves. Here are some numbers for you from recent studies. Sales firms that have at least 45% women perform 15 times better than firms that have 25% women or fewer. With diversity, everyone becomes better. The men on this team become better at sales because they have the benefit of the perspective of women. Diversity and inclusion results in better production, decision-making and outcomes, innovation and teamwork. The statistics you are looking at reinforce why diverse and inclusive teams achieve better results. So diversity is not a zero-sum game. It creates a healthier ecosystem that provides better and greater opportunity for all. Diversity is necessary to thrive. Before I wrap up, I just want to bring up an example from here with my team at Boeing Korea. Last year, we established the Boeing Korea Engineering and Technology Center, the BKETC. And throughout the hiring process, we deliberately kept our aspirations of becoming a global leader in diversity and inclusion at the top of our minds. In a country where the ratio of female to male engineers is around 19%, I'm proud to say that we currently have over 40% female engineers at BKETC. The results have been phenomenal. In less than a year of being established, I continue to hear endless compliments and praise from all of our global teams around the world who collaborate with the BKETC with regard to how creative and impressive the Korea team is, and how the potential for future growth is very encouraging due to the excellent and innovative output and production that the team is generating. But what made the recognition and experience more encouraging was to see so many other Korean and global companies being recognized for their work in making their workplace a more diverse and inclusive environment for everyone. This continues to be a global effort, and I hope to see Korea at the forefront of such an important cause. In conclusion, as leaders, I encourage you to always remember it's critical that we make commitments to increase diversity and improve inclusion in our working environments. The numbers prove it. We should always be guided by the principles of transparency and accountability to determine what the right measures are, where we're making progress, and where we need to try harder. And that's how we can continue to be better versions of ourselves and enhance productive and innovative output. Thank you very much. I'd say when I was Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, one of the things I did that I was most proud of was putting overseas in a embassy for the first time ever in Asia was a blind officer, a visually impaired officer, and having that person in an embassy was tremendously effective, not just for how the embassy functioned, but also how the community, how the host nation saw what America's values were and what our values were for how we work together as an embassy. And it was in some ways, a landmark step that the State Department had taken, and I'm proud of my role in that. Horizontal. I think it's just everything comes at you from every direction, and it's very flat, usually in a good way. And to encourage people to get opinions into you, to reach out to people that would normally be hard to reach out to, it's a good opportunity. It's interesting, I'm married to a Korean woman, and my in-laws, so I have a lot of experience. And I would say that outside the office space, Korean women are extremely strong, and I would encourage women to bring that strength into the workplace and to speak up, to participate, and to raise not just the expectations of those around them, but to raise their own expectations of where they should be advancing to in the office, in the workplace, and at home.